Welcome everybody, I am 6am Comics, and this is reviewing my 9-year-old's comics. Although in a few months, I'm going to have to change the title of the series because, as it turns out, children, they age, like the rest of us. Every established comic book enterprise has its relics. Captain America #1, Action Comics #1, Amazing Fantasy #15. All classics, all incredibly difficult to find. And even if discovered, the odds of them being in any condition worth preserving is a crapshoot at best. Now, while these all generally pertain to DC Comics or Marvel Comics or whatever names they were going by at the time, wouldn't you know that Nolan Club Comics, or as it's more commonly known now, Worldwide Comics, has some relics of its own. Most notably, I'm discussing the original run of the Human Spider series, the tale of a secret agent who's given a high-tech suit by a mysterious benefactor named Mr. Milo. It's a classic in Nolan's archive, but however, due to poor preservation techniques, or as we call it around here, a messy bedroom, these historic pages were lost in a mountain of Legos and dirty laundry. That is until we threatened to revoke Nolan's iPad privileges until he cleaned it up, and miraculously these pages were rediscovered. Smack my microphone. Sadly, despite my efforts to preserve these relics, the origin issue was unsalvageable. However, 3 issues were recovered, and I'm going to review these issues right now. Let's quickly discuss the presentation of this issue. The pages to the Human Spider series were part of a larger booklet of pre-designed panels for young comic creators. However, rather than keeping them preserved inside the book, Nolan opted to tear them out like an angry gorilla, despite there being no perforated edges, and thus we are left with, well, this travesty. Don't even get me going on how the pages were scattered and out of order amongst 7 or 8 different piles of old drawings. Comic restoration is a tedious business. We have a very unique binding method for this comic book, in the form of a single staple corner binding. This was due to the tattered state of the left edges of the interiors. The cover to this issue was obviously not a part of the original creation, but was illustrated months later as part of a separate run of Human Spider comics, which was sadly abandoned after 1 issue. It was repurposed for these classic issues, as they had no original cover art when they were created. Hence we see a drastically different design for our hero than what's portrayed in the comic book itself. Speaking of the book itself, we're treated to some classic black and white pencil interiors, which blend nicely with the predefined panels on each page. Nolan works well with the established boxes and utilizes the space provided with expert precision, giving our readers some lovely fine details while still making room for lengthy word balloons and narration. Despite being earlier in the young artist's career, we can see Nolan's trademark style blossoming on every page. I don't recall what all was going on in terms of sibling relations in our home during the time these books were being illustrated, but it's safe to say that Nolan's older brother and former editor Milo had no involvement with this series, which perhaps sheds some light on why the origin issue, which featured a benefactor named Mr. Milo who provided Human Spider with a suit, was ripped in half during a sloppy extraction from the notebook it was drawn in. Maybe it wasn't an accident after all. Let's get into the story. We open with a monstrous-looking villain, laughing diabolically. Dang, check that physique! Alongside a robot helper. "I will rule the universe," he exclaims while standing beside a Water Thug 200. Perhaps due to the aquatic nature of the Water Thug device they built, the robot's sidekick begins malfunctioning and turns the weapon against our antagonist. He screams in agony as he is horrifically melted. Following the accident, the machine breaks, ruining any chance of reversing the process. Enraged, our villain laments his new watery form. But as he mourns the loss of his old body, something begins to happen. His hands begin lighting on fire, his feet follow, and soon, his entire body is engulfed in flames, despite the fact that his body is made of water. Realizing the evil potential of his contradictory form, he once again laughs diabolically. We cut to our hero, the Human Spider, reminding the uninformed that he is a secret agent and also a hero. He stands on the roof of a lovely brick home, which begins to transform into a high-tech base of operations. Standard issue for secret agent vigilantes. He hears sirens in the distance and, feeling rather overconfident in his abilities, decides to leave his robotic arms at home while he goes off to do hero stuff. Using his non-trademark web-shooting arm cannons, he sets off to see what surprises the villains of the day have for him. We are then shown the source of the sirens. A bank is being robbed by a mysterious figure in awkwardly tight-fitting clothes and a beret. He laughs and reveals to the reader that he's our fiery yet watery villain from earlier. Abandoning his clever disguise, he retreats to his secret hideout, high in the mountains, which he's named his evil Lail. But then, the fiery puddle sees somebody approaching in the distance. The human spider? That's me, quips our hero. Die, Mosquito! Exclaims the mutant as he attempts to swat the human spider. Our point of view is suddenly shifted to an old film footage from a digital camcorder. We watch as the human spider masterfully dances around his enemy's assaults with ease, causing him to trip over his lack of feet and land on his face. As our villain without a name rises, he discovers something horrible, that his secret hideout in the cold, snowy mountains was tragically resulting in his own undoing. The frigid temperatures begin freezing his watery body, his fire unable to keep him in a liquid state as it has been extinguished by the harsh falling snow. He cries out, "No!" before freezing into a solid block of ice, forced to watch as our hero gloats in victory. The end. On the surface, this comes off as a lighthearted tale filled with humorous nonsense. We have a villain with very contradictory powers, a protagonist with a transforming house, and a resolution that has little to do with our title hero's presence at all. And yet, as is typically the case with Nolan's writing, there's a deeper meaning at play, and even more concerning implications if you follow those threads of logic. If I had to give this issue a theme, I'd say it was hubris. We open with a villain so certain of his diabolical inventions, he fails to realize the error of having a water-based ray gun in direct proximity to the robot he's built to control it. His arrogance resulted in his tragic mutation, and even more tragic was the loss of that sweet six-pack. But despite his initial folly, he immediately returns to a life of crime and becomes so sure of himself that he goes and builds himself a secret lair at the top of a mountain, which only results in his own downfall. But this dangerous bravado isn't limited to just the bad guy. We see hints of it in our lead good guy as well. It's woven into his personality. In his first appearance in the book, what does he do? He pridefully declares his heroism before showing off his over-the-top transforming house, which seemingly serves no purpose other than to look awesome. Following this transformation, his own self-assuredness in his abilities leads him to leave his high-tech spider arms at home, before declaring that he expects to be surprised by whatever villainous deeds await him. It leaves one to wonder, what if our unnamed villain hadn't built a base in the mountains? What if it had been somewhere hot? Perhaps a place where both liquid and fire could thrive. We may have been looking at a very different outcome, especially when you consider that the human spider had no means of actually damaging his opponent, only arising victorious by means of unplanned technicalities. In the end, this was a tale of dueling egos, and it was only a matter of whose swagger was ultimately more self-destructive. It was by pure luck that good won in the end, and perhaps we should reflect on this and simply count our blessings. Wow. What a powerful message. I'm excited to see if these themes carry over into the next issue, which I happen to have right here. And we will be reviewing next week. Until then, I guess the only thing really left to do is to give this bad boy a rating. And in keeping with the book's theme, I'm going to let my own ego determine the grade, and I'm gonna give it a B for better than everybody else's books.